Hello, everybody. How are you today? It's been a hot minute. I have been hosting in-laws and getting a child settled into a new grade and all kinds of things. So popping in today to finally deliver the 3 strategies that you need to have in place to have sustainable client attraction. So depending on where you're watching this may or may not make sense to you. I have a few different businesses, and one of my primary businesses, the business that started it all, is Soul Journeys, which is the #1 Akashic Record training school in the world. And we have trained over 100,000 students in over 100 countries, plus all of the wealth consciousness things we teach and business consciousness and so on. So when I first started in business, I didn't know what I was doing, as many of us do. And it doesn't matter if you have an MBA or not, there's still like theory and then there's actual application. So in the beginning of my business, I was doing all of the low dividend things and giving myself the impression that I was being productive because I was busy. But I was busy doing all the low dividend things and things that required the least from me. Things that didn't have a high conversion rate, like leaving a business card in a health food store and assuming that thousands of people were going to knock on my door as a result. And there were a lot of stretchy things. And I know you get that too in the beginning of your business. I spoke everywhere, and oh my goodness, I think I drank a bottle of Rescue Remedy before every talk that I did. And but eventually, as we know, we develop a muscle. Anyways, there was one thing that I was avoiding, and that was in-person networking. I didn't know how to translate what I was doing. I made all kinds of assumptions about what the room was going to be like and how people were going to receive me, AKA not receive me, and whatever other stories I had. So I kept avoiding these, not unlike working out. I know we all do this, or most of us do this, where the night before we'll be like, yeah, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to work out, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do all these things. And then we wake up and go, I'm not feeling the greatest, I'll do it tomorrow. So that was my thing with all of these networking groups. And then I finally did it and broke the seal, and I survived. And it was actually better than I expected. And I started to study, as I do, just study patterns and look for, commonalities and so on. And I started to notice that when I just showed up in these groups in an energy of curiosity, instead of wanting something or thinking that business was going to come from that group, and instead just focused on getting to know people and building relationships, that I ended up getting almost everyone from all of these various networking groups that I was in, totally unattached, actually coming and friends with me and referring their friends and family. And I had to really study what I was doing. But I realized that very quickly that relationships were where it was at. That's what was helping me open doors that might have been closed otherwise. That's what was, of course, bringing more business into my company. I had a lot of great referral angels and various things. But point is that I went from twiddling my thumbs, feeling like I was working for pennies an hour, doing all of the seemingly right things, going to networking events eventually, right when I got my courage muscles to do that. And nothing was really showing up. I would have things come in here and there. And about 3 months in to me starting my business, all of a sudden I blinked and I was rushing to my kitchen to make a smoothie really quickly in between calls because I was so busy serving clients and teaching classes that it didn't occur to me, not unlike a job where someone builds in your lunch break and builds in, the time you're meant to be there or not, and all of the things, right? I wasn't building in time for working out. I wasn't building in time for socializing. I wasn't building in time to eat. I was working a crazy amount, which of course is not a good thing, right? But at the time I was just so happy and I was saying yes to everyone, right? So all of a sudden I kind of blinked and went, oh my goodness. Point is that about 3 months in, I had a waiting list to work with me, and I've had one ever since, and that was almost 20 years ago. So I had to really look at, well, what is it that I'm doing, right? What is it, what ecosystem am I building around this such that this works for me? So there are 3 ecosystems that when you put them into place, they're going to work really well for you. And that way, whether it's filling one-on-one stuff, selling products, selling digital courses, selling memberships, selling masterminds, whatever it is that you're selling, you can rely on this as a predictable thing. It also gives you a lot of wiggle room actually to split test things and to take some risks and try out some different marketing tactics and so on, right? And different client attraction tactics to see what else you might want to add to your repertoire or your treasure chest or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, in my new Exponential Client Attraction Mastermind, I'm going to be teaching a lot of this way more in depth because, you know, it's a whole system. But basically, I've come to realize in coaching people in business over many, many years, and that was unexpected too. I never planned on getting into business coaching, let alone buying businesses and selling businesses. But people were watching what I was doing, and a lot of Healy-Feelies would say to me, hey, you know, I want to have a business like yours. Can you show me? And I thought, yeah, sure. And then that eventually got, you know, that birthed a whole bunch of other programs. So anyways, I've been in the digital space for a really long time. I've now been referred to as an OG of the space, which is really bizarre for me. But I've learned a thing or two about the difference between tactics and strategies. So we've seen a lot of tactics come and go. You might remember on Twitter, there was Periscope, and where did Periscope go? Google Plus used to be a thing. Everyone said you have to be on Google Plus, and then it kind of just, who knows where it went. Clubhouse was a big trend. I know there's still a lot of people there, and it may or may not sustain itself. But these are all methods, right, to deliver our messaging, which is what marketing is. It's educating the marketplace on who we are, how we can help people, and how they can step into our world and be supported in creating the thing, whatever the thing is that they want to create. So in the OGs, as an OG, I've seen, for example, TeleSeminars born. And TeleSeminars, eventually, someone had the genius idea, and I don't know who it was. If you know who it was, let me know. Tag them in the comments. They realized it was actually more efficient and a really cool collaboration project to create telesummits, right? Because so many people were signing up for teleseminars to learn how to attract clients and to learn how to, I don't know, be camera ready and whatever other things we were teaching way back in the day. These were usually free teleseminars. And someone said, hey, if we're all advertising on the same teleseminar directory listings, and yes, those were a thing back in the day if you weren't in business at that time or online at that time. And so someone said, hey, you know, if we're all posting these things, why don't we just pool them all together? And we'll have like 20 speakers at the same time. Well, those became a trend, right? And they actually lasted a really long time. And then they kind of became the shoulder pads of the online world, and were a little bit outdated. And then because of what's been happening in the world over the last few years, by necessity, virtual events became an even more popular thing. And we've seen that, right? So, so that was once a tactic, but it actually, if you look at it, has had longevity. And a lot of these tactics will inevitably turn into a thing, not unlike freebies. Freebies used to be optional. Way back in the day, people created freebies and said, hey, if you give me your email, I will give you this amazing checklist of, you know, the things that your brand needs, or how to attract 5 clients this week, or whatever the thing was. And we would think, oh yes, well, it's worthwhile for me to give you my email. I'm willing to allow you to keep marketing to me if you give me this cool thing for free, provided that you keep giving me cool stuff and making me want to open emails from you. So that initially was a tactic. And then, as you now know, we all have one, right? But we didn't know it was going to be sustainable. So I'm not knocking tactics, but what I'm saying is the first strategy you need to have in place is a marketing strategy. And many CEOs, many entrepreneurs are not aware of the difference between a marketing strategy and a marketing tactic. Tactics are going to come and go. Trends are going to come and go. Some will stick, as I mentioned. Some will be, you know, the pinnacle of, yay, we're all going to adopt this thing. Not unlike funnels, right? Most people have funnels at this point. And that's not a new thing. It's just named something different, by the way. It's really just a sequence of emails that you're using to nurture your new members to your community, to give them a taste of who you are, to showcase, you know, how you can help them, to showcase your wisdom, your zone of genius, and allow them to decide if after a little bit more interaction with you that they want to keep hearing from you, right? So that became something that has now been baked into all of our business models. But there's a lot of other things that we're seeing right now. The tactic, the trend is Reels, whether it be on TikTok or other places, right? And and it makes sense because the content, the way we're consuming content now is about 80% short form content and 20% long form content. So I totally get that. And that speaks to what the consumer's looking for. We're all just saturated, right? We're all at surge capacity because of what's been happening over the last few years. And we only have the bandwidth for so much information. There's so much information going on in the world that our cup is already full. So we're needing to take microdoses, basically, of, I don't even know why I said that, but we need to take microdoses of this information. And so that's what reels feed into, but that's a tactic. So if we're paying attention to what the market is showing us, instead of just following these tactics, what is in alignment with what feels good for you? What is in alignment with what your community responds to? Whatever lights you up is already going to have a greater likelihood to light them up, because of course you're going to convey your energy differently, right? But reels may not be your thing, and that's okay. We don't have to jump on the bandwagon just because other people are doing that. But if we're paying attention to where the market is going, that it's all about consuming shorter form content, then how can your marketing strategy, not your tactics, support that, so that as these tactics come and go, your strategy still holds it all together so that it's repeatable. Additionally, with your marketing strategy inherent in that, we need to know what are the best ways to market your offer. So a low ticket offer is going to be marketed often much differently than a higher ticket offer. Your higher ticket client is responding to marketing differently than someone that's investing at a lower price point. It doesn't mean they're different people. Sometimes they're the same person. But when a high ticket client is looking to step into a high ticket container, there are different things that help them say yes to that versus marketing them a $97 digital program, for example. So we need to understand the market, right? We need to understand what the consumer is looking for, and then figure out how within our strategy we're going to address that. We've seen TeleSeminars become webinars, and we saw that whole strategy, and that's still working, right? But it's kind of bubbled a little bit, not unlike summits. Eventually, it'll probably make a comeback. Then webinars just got renamed to masterclasses, and now everyone's calling their thing a masterclass. When is it? I don't know. Maybe not. I know we're all kind of looking for different words to describe what we're trying to convey, and that will come over time. Email marketing has sustained itself as a method of communicating, of educating your marketplace, right? So that's not going away, even if people tell you that. It's not at all. Social media was initially this thing where we were all trying to figure it out, and now not only has it stayed, but it's a whole industry, right? When I first came onto Facebook, as an example, we were all just kind of quoting other people like Ralph Waldo Emerson, just trying to fling spaghetti against the wall and figure out what to say. And then people started having their own original thought, and then memes got born, and then GIFs got born. But even within that, it's become a whole industry. You have social media managers now, you have automation that automates your posts for you, you have different shopping carts you can attach to your profiles. There's video, that wasn't even really a thing. I could go on and on, right? But it's become a thing. It's not going anywhere. So we also want to pay attention to that. Like what is having longevity, and have I attached myself to that? Meaning, like, am I making the most of social media? Am I making the most of webinar, masterclass, whatever you want to call it, right? We know that giveaways are a thing, and giveaways, they have their pros and cons, not unlike summits and other things, but they're a great list building tool, and they probably need a little more innovation, right? Just like summits need a little more innovation, funnels probably at this point need a little more innovation, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, the market is responding to that, so we pay attention to that stuff. The point is, we need a very solid and sound and grounded marketing strategy and ecosystem to support that actually fills your programs without you working harder, right? So that's something, as I mentioned, we go way deeper into in the Exponential Client Attraction Mastermind. And then we need a client attraction ecosystem. So we've marketed. Not everyone's going to come in from our marketing. In fact, our marketing is going to repel some people, and that's a good thing as well. Not because we're trying to rush people away, but because they they need to find their home, right? And if their home isn't with you, meaning is if there isn't an alignment for them, then that's great that they're going to go and get some help with someone that actually can support them in getting what they need. So with the client attraction ecosystem, I have countless stories of people who really don't understand this, right? So there are a lot of tactics being taught out there, and they can bring in clients for sure, but do they do it sustainably, and do they do it in a way such that the overhead is pretty low? When we have a digital business, your overhead should not be high at all. You're not paying for office space, hopefully. Your tech costs are going to be pretty minimal. Your team costs, you can keep a really lean, robust team like I do and still have a hugely profitable business. You have a lot of no to low cost ways to market your business and so on. So the overhead is really low. We shouldn't be having 80 to 90% of our profits going to supporting team, sales team, associate coaches, etc. In my opinion, right? I'm not saying to not have those things, but I'm saying you probably want to reevaluate what your margins are and make sure that that's actually supporting the sustainability of your business. Because if you're only able to keep 10%, and on top of that, you have to divvy that up still amongst tech and taxes and all kinds of things, how much are you actually paying yourself with even with a 7-figure company? If 10% is left over, how much of that is actually paying you? And is that worth it? Are you actually making less in your business than you would if you went and got a JOB? Which stands for just over broke, just in case you're not aware of my jargon. So we need to have a client attraction system. We need to know what is the cost per lead? Like, how much does it actually cost you to acquire a new customer? Do you know the lifetime value of your customer? And is your marketing strategy and your client attraction strategy supporting you in A, keeping those costs low, and B, increasing the lifetime value of your customers? This isn't to say we're numbers. I'm someone's customer too, and I'm sure they have these conversations about me, right? But we need to know this information because this really informs our strategy. And as I mentioned, there's a difference between tactics and actual strategy. To give you an example, moving into the client retention ecosystem, which many businesses are lacking, or they don't even have it. I was shocked, and I've actually launched some programs to support people with this mastermind being one of them, because, for example, I've had clients come to me over the last few years who did the whole Facebook ad Facebook ad that leads people to a webinar, that leads people to an application, that leads people to a sales coach, that leads people into a 4-month program, and that's it. All of that effort, all of that expense, all of that hoopla to bring in a customer, and then they're done. They have a relationship with you. They've already bought from you, and there's nothing to buy after that. There's no invitation to do anything else. And what is that person thinking, right? We don't know what they're thinking, but in the absence of information, people fill in the blanks. So they might be thinking, hey, this person's going out of business. They don't have anything else to offer me. Hey, this person's a one-hit wonder. They're probably not going to last in business. They don't really have an ecosystem. Hey, I thought they liked me, but they didn't invite me to go deeper with them. So maybe I'm not welcome here. Maybe this person's sick, and that's why they're not inviting me to anything else. Maybe they're too busy for me. Maybe they're selling the company. They're going to fill in the blanks, and none of it's true, presumably, but they don't know that. And they're in there to be served by us. So it's natural that they're going to take things personally, even if they don't try to, right? Because they're wondering what's next. If you're marketing personal development, especially if you're marketing to people with a growth mindset and encouraging a growth mindset, and then you're not telling them what's next, because that's how growth mindset works, right? What's next? If there's literally nothing next for them, what's the point of all of that, right? So people that went through that training and aligned with mentors that were teaching them that, yeah, they made some money. They barely saw any of that money, right? Because the overhead was so high. But they were mortified when they realized, when I would say, okay, well, what do you lead people into after that? And they didn't have an answer. They didn't know they should. Nobody was teaching them that. They were happy to teach them this basic thing, But why not add in this other piece of client retention? That I have clients that have been with me for almost 20 years. Of course, there's attrition. Of course, people come and go. Of course, people come in once and then leave. Right? There's all the things, right? But from a client retention perspective, this is where I really shine, and I teach people this ecosystem. And once they have it in place, they quadruple, even 10 times their revenue just from building in a client retention ecosystem, not even bringing in new clients yet. So there's an elegant way to do that. There's a simple way to do that, but most businesses are lacking that and really understanding where are people going. What am I upselling people into? What's the lateral move for them if they want to still stay connected, but they're not really in the mood for some massive growth right now, because a lot of us go through that, right? And then what are we leading people into if they've decided they want to just step back but still get some support or information? So basically upsell, cross-sell, and downsell. That should always be built into your client retention ecosystem. And how are you supporting that? What's the system that supports that? Do you bake it into the end of your programs? Do you time it so that, when someone's nearing the end of their program with you, are you already inviting them into another conversation? Or is a team member doing that? Or do you have automation around that? Or. But there's a lot of pieces, and they're not things you have to tend to all the time. Once they're in place, but they make things a lot easier for you. And once you have team, if you don't have team already, it makes your team a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier for them, I should say, to step in and be able to support those ecosystems, right? So they can understand how your business flows. But it first has to start with you understanding how your business flows and what the client experience is like, right? And these are just these ecosystems. On a meta level, it actually starts with, what are you really inviting people into? So with Soul Journeys, I'm really inviting people into living in their highest timeline, right? And creating programs and creating trainings and free content and so on that really ultimately supports them in rising into the penthouse, essentially. So with that, when I know what I'm really inviting people into, it doesn't mean I'm marketing that, but I have to know what I'm inviting people into, because that shapes the ecosystem, that shapes the marketing messaging, that shapes the content that I create and or delegate to other people. It shapes what podcasts I'm going to be on, what TV shows I'm going to be on, all of the things, right? What summits I'm going to say yes to, what summits I'm going to decline. They're probably lovely summits, right? But they might not make sense for what I'm teaching and who I want to be supporting. So I have to know that. With the podcast connector, I'm actually inviting people into thought leadership, right? Thought leaders go and spread their message everywhere they can. And I'm inviting them into that next level of visibility, that next level of leadership, that next level of authority building, to be able to spread their message all over God's green acre. In my hard lending business, I'm inviting people to experience financial fortitude and freedom, right? I'm giving them a hand up when the banks won't lend to them to support their business, to help them reinvest in their business for growth. And then they pay me back, and now they're serving more people and their business has grown, right? So there's various ways that this plays out. But we need to have all three. The most cost-effective way to attract more clients is to continue selling to our existing clients. It's very costly to acquire new clients, and it's necessary, as we know. There's only 3 ways to make money in business: by attracting new clients, by raising our rates, and by retaining the clients we have. The first one is necessary, but cost prohibitive at times, or whatever I'm trying to say. The second absolutely works, but we can't just be raising our rates all the time and doing nothing else, because if we're not constantly bringing new clients in, eventually that attrition will burn out almost your entire active client list, and then you'll have no choice but to attract new clients. There's only so much rate raising that works, before it starts to either leave a bad taste in people's mouths or moves people out, right? Where you're now untouchable, basically. And then retention, right? Once people are buying from you, they want to keep buying from you. They might not buy from you every time you make an offer. And probably they won't, right? Because if you're making offers all the time, like I do, people can only consume so much, right? Or participate in so much before they need a break. But I have had clients with me for a really long time. And it's because I've built within that system a way to love people up when they're in my world and to allow them to keep having the experiences that I want them to have. So I have to get really clear on why are people staying and how can I keep amplifying that, duplicating that, making that a sustainable way of continuing to hang out with people I actually truly adore. I'm on their team. I want them to win. I only want good things for them. I want them to be aligned with their highest timeline. So how can I support them in doing that? So it's way more complex, obviously, and yet simple based on what I'm sharing. But I want to just plant the seed with you to take a look at what's really going on. We're having some shifts in the world, of course. Our business is an asset, right? And we need to be building it in such a way that it can truly be a wealth building, wealth creation, wealth expanding asset. And part of what allows that to happen is for us to have certain key systems in place that allow money to be predictable, basically, the money coming in the business. So we know how much we can invest in ourselves every year, how much we need to reinvest back in the business for growth, how we can, what new team members we're going to bring on to support the growth of the company and supporting even more clients and so on. So let me know if this served you. I'm excited to hear what you're already really rocking and maybe what you're going to be tweaking for yourself. And if you'd like to join us in the Exponential Client Attraction Mastermind, we are going to be over 6 months. It's a done with you mastermind with yours truly. I've learned a thing or two about building profitable platforms. And so I'm basically giving you my 8-figure client attraction ecosystem. That means the marketing system. That means the onboarding, actually attracting them in. How do I take care of people once they're in? What's my retention ecosystem? And how to run a 6-figure challenge, how to run a 6-figure summit, how to, right? So it's a nice mix. It's a nice hybrid of a lot of information that you're going to need to have sustainable success. And then, of course, actual masterminding unique to you, right? So it's bespoke in the sense that I will get to know your business and really be able to support you with the model that you have. I've learned a lot about business models over the years and what ecosystems work best with different models. So this isn't for someone that's brand new in business. This is for someone who's making at least 5K, but natural leader, definitely loves to implement. They don't need to be convinced to show up for their business because your clients deserve better, right? As do mine. They deserve to work with someone who doesn't need to be convinced every day and begged every day to show up for their community. And someone that is really ready to add a lot of income over the next 6 months and appreciates the done with you. This means that I'll be doing your copy with you. This means I'll be helping you create your programs with you and pricing them and filling them and so on in a very simple, elegant way. I'm not about complexity. That's unnecessary. But we do need to do some efficient things that really position you to have people sold on you so that actually does a lot of the heavy lifting. I have a very different strategy of how I keep my pipeline full compared to a lot of what's out there. There's nothing wrong with what's out there. I just do things very differently. I'm not someone that actually wants to spend a lot of time doing unnecessary marketing and outreach and things like that when I can be really clear on how to very quickly and simply and elegantly fill my courses and my programs. So if that feels aligned for you and you would like to know more, we can definitely have a chat. Just let me know in the comments or private message me that you'd like some more information and we'll talk it out from there. But in the meantime, I hope this served and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.